Well, that's 101, which means I've already been there looking at my duties. But I'm having so much fun, and I can't go off script when the meeting starts, so I guess I'm hesitating. Good morning, everybody. I missed the chair this morning, but I'm glad kind of in a way too, because it's kind of fun to be sitting here one last time. Glad to see you guys. Welcome to the December meeting of Rappahannock-Rapidan Regional Commission. We join the place from the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Confirmed about a form. We do have a form. You have a form. And you just started jotting down who's here up there, haven't you? I knew you had it. Okay, the first thing we need to do is to approve the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda that were distributed prior to the meeting? Then I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The agenda is approved. First thing is, the next thing is public comment. Are there any members of the public who'd like to address the commission today? Are there any comments received prior to the meeting? None before the meeting. None before the meeting. Any public like to, okay, it says, outgoing officers. Okay. I just want to make sure, is there anyone else that's outgoing today, besides, it says officers? So I didn't know if that-
Yourself and Mr. Edgerton are who we have, resolutions.
Okay, just didn't want to miss anyone. Sometimes I find somebody gets missed when somebody's been around 3,000 years, gets recognized, and the poor little fella that put it too is overlooked. So I just wanted to make sure.
That's as far as I know. I anticipate there may be a few others that depart.
Okay.
And it will, for example, Mr. Sherman from Town of Orange is not here today, but was only elected in the past.
Thank you for saying that. Because I will draw attention to him, even though he isn't here. Rick, was mayor back in the 90s. And, he's a little younger than me. I've known him since he's a little kid. And, so I call him Ricky rather than Rick. But, yeah, he came on in 92. And I think in 93 to 95 or so, he was mayor of Orange. And since then, he's almost always been, vice mayor. He's got a very busy, heating and air conditioning, electrical business, quite a fleet of trucks. And so he's a busy man. But, he went off for a couple of years. And, I think his wife had a job in Northern Virginia and they did something. But basically, he's been on for 30 years. And, so he's not here, but we thank Rick for his service. Okay, presentations and special.
Can we adopt those resolutions?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can. If they want to.
I'd like to at least make it.
Formal. Okay, it's just funny when it's about me, I just want to kind of glance over it because it has my name on it.
You can always ask me to read them into but I would also allow you to.
I would actually like to pass this part over to you. It's nice having seniority and things like that. But like standing up there before you guys at the annual meeting, that's embarrassing. That's why I pulled John up there. Because you're not really looking for attention. So I'll let you take it.
Well, what I would say about the resolutions for Vice Chair Pointer and Mr. Edgerton as the treasurer, the tradition, at least in recent years, was as far as resolutions for departing members of the commission has been if you served more than 10 years on the commission, or if you served in an officer role, which both of these gentlemen have. So we do have resolutions prepared to present to both of them today. What I think you would need is a motion and second approval of those resolutions.
Okay, asking for the motion.
So moved.
For a second.
Second.
I didn't know if we get a second or not, but I'm glad we did.
That's right. If there wasn't, you couldn't leave.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I would have just sat here. Wait, thank y'all very much. I guess for these kind of things, we actually do a roll call vote.
We certainly can.
Resolutions. Well, in Gordonsville, we do a roll call vote for resolutions.
I'm happy to do so. So for the resolutions of appreciation for Mr. John Egerton and Mr. Robert Pointer. Mr. Bruns,
Yes.
Mr. Pointer. Mr. Curry,
Yes.
Ms. Donahue,
Yes.
Ms. Downs,
Yeah.
Mr. Edgerton,
Yes.
Mr. Hyden,
Yes.
Mr. Polk,
Yes.
Mr. Ramikis. Yay. Mr. Voorhees,
A wholehearted yes.
Mr. Weekly,
Yes.
and Mr. Woods.
Yes.
That's great. Now, I'm not gonna keep taking moments of explanation and sidebars this whole meeting. But the reason you put me with full mouth of water when I was supposed to say aye was because I thought the chair voted last, not in alphabetical order, so I took a gulp early on in your point.
I can go grab the Robert's Rules of Order.
There you go.
Confirm my mistake.
I knew it was something like that. Okay, well, thank you all very much for that vote and motions, and, next we have a presentation from, Jennifer Little, Regional Planner, updating the commission on the PDC Housing Development Program. Jennifer.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna actually.
Sure.
Space.
So welcome, everyone. I'm excited to be here to share with you some updates on what we've been doing in the housing and development realm. We're gonna see if this actually works. Patrick gave me some instructions. Let's see if I can get this going the right way. All right, so first up, today, we're gonna provide you an update on the PDC Housing Development Program, talk about some upcoming funding opportunities and upcoming regional opportunities. To start with, the PDC Housing Development Program, here is a background of what we've been doing, or what's been going on over the last few years. So starting in 2021, we received a grant for $2 million. And let's see. December of 2021, we put out a request for proofs of concept to get a sense of what kind of projects we could support. 9 proofs came back, requesting $6.2 million. In January, we put out a formal request for applications, and 7 came back requesting $2.9 million. We see this as a pretty good indicator that there are a lot of great projects out there. In February of 2022, the commission, this board approved allocations to 6 different organizations at a total of $1.8 million in funding allocation. At the end of that year, December of 2022, 5 of those projects remained viable. So we ended up pulling back and reallocating $300,000 towards Culpeper Community Development Corporation and People Incorporated to support their projects. So the total of these projects is 100. Okay, it's not clicking forward. Bear with me. There we go. So at a total of 113 units that are being developed across 5 projects, this chart provides you a breakdown of the 5 community partners, their projects, so the number of units and the type in column 2, the amount of funding that was allocated to each project in column 3, and the percentage that funding represents in the total cost of the project. And if I can direct you to columns 6 and 7, that shows you where the projects are located and the status, which I'm going to cover in the next few slides. All right, so completed projects, the 2 that we have completed are the apartments on Main in the town of Madison and Fletcherville, located just north of Warrenton in Fauquier County. Both of these projects purchased an existing structure, and Skyline Cap rehabilitated the former Barber's house, which was a transitional home. It had originally 5 units. We worked with them to add a 6th unit, so now it is a 6-unit complex. Fletcherville, which is Foothills Housing Corporation, they took the Ben and Mary Steakhouse and converted the top floor into 4 apartment units. And I have a before and after up there for your information. Okay, next one. All right, so the next 3 projects are those that are in process. Right now, we have Parkside Apartments located here in the town of Culpeper, next to Yellow Meadow Park. 37, excuse me, 37 units currently under construction. Part of their funding package was low-income housing tax credits. So their target households are those who earn 60% area median income and below. Next up, Lightfoot Apartments, which is People Inc. This is just started site development here in the last couple months. Their plan is 6 units, also located in the town of Culpeper. They also have low-income housing tax credits as part of their funding package. And they're looking to serve households that earn between 40% and 60% area median income. They also are set to reserve 6 units for permanent supportive housing.
What is that?
Those are, I guess a good way to explain it is special needs. So people with mental health challenges, sometimes say,
Typically for the, I would say also for the hardest to house and serve that need more than just housing assistance, but need wraparound services. Typically the vouchers would come through HUD. Sometimes there are ones that are for severe mental illness, but they essentially, as it states, permanent supportive housing, stay with the client, you know, in perpetuity in that unit.
okay. All right, next one. All right. So next up is in Warrenton, Fauquier Habitat for Humanity is working on a long-term project on Paytai Street in that neighborhood. This particular project that we're helping to support is going to result in 6 home ownership opportunities. What's unique about this project is it is modular construction, which means that they are dimensionally sized units, I know, big words, built off-site, and when the site is ready for delivery, they will be installed and they're ready to inhabit within a year or 2. So let's see. I added the site plans and some elevation to give you a sense that these are not manufactured homes, or what most people would consider manufactured homes. Okay. All right, so changing directions here, upcoming funding opportunities. So we recently heard about a couple of different housing development funds. And starting with this one, due to the success of piloting the PDC Housing Development Program, which is all the projects that you just saw in the previous slides, Virginia Housing has come back with a second round of funding. And there are some differences between the round that we're currently finishing up and this new round. First, it's going to be a competitive application, which is due the upcoming March and April of 2025. The total funding for the entire state is $8 million, and the maximum amount that can be applied for per grantee is $1 million. This is a 2-year grant performance period, although compared to what we are in right now, which started out as 3 and they extended it to 4. And as you saw with the updates, we have a few projects that are still underway. They've also added to their scoring criteria. And so here's 3 examples of what they're looking for. Projects that are more competitive and more likely to have a successful application. They're asking for evidence that it will be meeting an unmet housing need through community engagement and data support. They're also looking at what level of service to very low income households, so neighbors, our neighbors, and the underserved within the community. They're also, because of the 2-year time frame, they're going to be looking at the readiness of projects. There's a couple of projects I can think of offhand that we might be able to work with. However, based on what I'm understanding this far, those projects need to be as close to shovel ready. So the moment that an award is put out, they need to be ready to start construction. And we can compare that to what we've been going through if you have any additional questions.
So are these restricted to applications by regional PDCs?
Yes,
Yeah, so as Jennifer, explained, the funding that we're currently working under, which is sort of granted to us without, we had to submit an application, but was not competitive, and gave us a lot of resources. This is, I think they want to continue the program, but Virginia Housing has also, spent down a lot of its excess reserve funds, on this, different programs and others. So, I think one of the things we would probably, seek your consensus on, I don't think we need to vote on it, would be to engage with some of those partners that may have projects that might be interested in this in the early part of 2025, and then come back to the commission with a suggestion of applying if there is suitable interest in a project that makes sense. Lower amount of funding, but I still think there are projects out there, including some that we talked through initially when we did the initial application round, that might be interested and might benefit from.
And weren't there some that just were time challenged and?
The two that were time challenged was one in the town of Orange that Encompass or RCS was working on at the time, which still I think is still kind of bubbling and up to the surface there. The other one that we received application for was the Heroes Bridge project, which if you saw last night, Warrenton Town Council did approve the rezoning. So I don't know what the funding needs are, but those were two that came in the first time that we just didn't feel like we could. And actually the Encompass project in Orange was one that we initially allocated, and had to say it's just not going to be completed by the time frame.
answer your question?
Yeah.
Oh, all right, we'll move on to the next one. All right, so next upcoming funding opportunity that we also recently heard about was the Workforce Housing Investment Program. This was just recently announced and signed as an executive order 42 from Governor Youngkin. I was at the governor's housing conference when he made the initial announcement of this. There are different state agencies that are partnering with this particular program, but the area of interest for us is Virginia Housing will be implementing the funding side of things, including loans, loan subsidies, grants, and grants up to $3 million for localities and nonprofits to develop housing for workers who are earning between 80% and 120% area median income. Knowing this region, that varies greatly from county to county. The application period is the 1st of February through the March 31st, 2025. So this is also coming out here shortly. Among the criteria, the key piece is that eligible communities must be within a 30-minute, I would imagine, drive of a new or expanding business that is adding at least 100 new jobs for a non-distressed locality or 50 new jobs for a single distressed locality. The map here that I included shows that Fauquier, Rappahannock, and Culpeper are considered general eligibility, whereas Madison and, sorry, I almost said Olympic, I don't know why, Orange County. And Orange County is considered under their criteria a single distressed county. So this is one of the opportunities that's coming up. Okay, I'm going to move forward. All right. So with the work that I've been doing, I think it's been 4 years now here at the Regional Commission. I've had a wonderful opportunity to get to know a lot of people across the region, engage with staff and representatives from all kinds of organizations and agencies. And out of that engagement and various discussions, it has more recently come up interest in hosting a housing conference here for our region. Part of that interest stems from the fact that Thomas Jefferson, PDC, south of us, and George Washington Regional Commission, just east of us, both are hosting housing conferences. There are other planning district commissions across the state that also occasionally host a housing conference. And so I've been looking into this and talking to more individuals and groups of individuals to see what the interest is. Out of those conversations, we've covered a broad range of different topics and areas of interest. I've listed a few here that seem to have gotten the most interest, including solutions and best practices. What's realistic, applicable, or what can be implemented here in our region. There's still concern about understanding housing conditions and what the housing issues and what barriers are in the way of preventing addressing unmet housing needs. There's also been questions about what kind of role housing plays in economic development, a community ecosystem, how housing, the condition of housing, how does it affect physical health, mental health, and life outcomes. These are among many of the different topics that are under discussion right now. Right now, the group is targeting a date of fall 2025. We hope to be working on can't say that word, preliminary budget, bringing back a framework and some details around, we want to say February 2025. I think that's a good goal for us. So at this point, I want to thank you for listening to me. I'm going to send this back over to Patrick. For the
Yeah, I've
next
just got a
slide.
couple other things to highlight and thinking about the housing conference or the summit. I mean, I think the thought process here is likely a one-day type event. You know, as Jennifer said, she went to the event in Fredericksburg that George Washington Regional Commission put on. There's been interest from, you know, with funders. I think we would probably towards Virginia Housing, probably PAC Foundation, some of the others to offset as many costs as we could. But that's the information we want to bring back to you in early part of next year. But also want to make you aware of this so that if there are any ideas, thoughts, concerns, anything that you have between now and then that you can raise them with us. But we've had good feedback again from those conversations with the partners that are on the left there, including some of your staff members as well that have been engaged on that. The other opportunity that we sort of bring up just for discussion or your input is, many of you would recall the housing study that was completed through the commission in 2020 and I think was approved in February 2021. We've had sort of ongoing, as we've had opportunity to present to some of your boards or your councils to do some minor data updates as we've been able to. We also don't feel, staff-wise at least, that there's a strong need to revisit the entire housing study in terms of strategies and solutions. Frankly, I don't think there's been enough time to really go through all of those and say that, you know, they've worked or they haven't. But what we would, you know, kind of seek your input on is if the time would be right this upcoming year to do a refresh of the data, whether we would look to do that in-house or, you know, get a consultant or a public body in Virginia that we might be able to contract with to assist with that. And the items on the left there sort of kind of lay out that thought process. I think one of the biggest things was this study being completed in February 2021 means that most of the data that's included is pre-pandemic, pre-inflationary pressures that we've seen in the last couple of years. And frankly, what we hear the most when we've got outreach from you all and from other partners is what does the data say? What do we have in terms of data? What information is new that we might not have? And so I think our thought process would be not going through a full revisit of the study and not going through a full study process, but really doing a targeted approach towards getting that data updated. You'll recall the annual meeting, not this year, but last year, where we had the Virginia Association of Realtors, which gave some of that information initially, but sort of doing a more formal approach to revisiting the information that was in there. So again, seeking your input, not necessarily as an approval today, but really as a guardrail to tell us, yeah, we don't really think that's necessary, or no, absolutely, that would be beneficial, is sort of the request for between now and you know, early 2025.
Patrick, who do you see as the participants? Elected officials or also outside agencies and people that are third party
in the
and the conference and
in the summit. I think, it's a good question because we've actually, and Jennifer might be able to speak to this too, the ones that we've seen in other parts of Virginia, I think have generally trended towards having good participation from service providers, from developers, nonprofit developers especially. I think it's been harder in certain areas to get, the elected officials in, but I think that is one where if there's a benefit or an interest, certainly would be included. I think given the kind of topics that were included on the slide and the broad brush approach to this, it would be something where, we're not limiting that audience. It would be, for anyone with interest, but I think certainly we would want to target, all of those stakeholders, including elected officials and local staff as well. We do, and just for your information, we do have a couple of items here just to kind of show the data that we think would need to be updated. This chart here shows income distribution by town, and again, it's from 2018. We know some of that will have changed from 2018 certainly to 2022, and then census data and other sources would be there. This one, again, has been a useful one to kind of review. This is an example of owner versus renter income for Culpeper County in 2021. And it just shows you, owner are spending, typically have higher incomes, and you've got that sort of meeting point right there in the $75,000 to $100,000 range, where it sort of flips. And then many of you will have seen this when we've included a lot of slides where we talk about vacancy rate. And the biggest thing here that I think we would want to confirm, and I think probably would be confirmed by, collecting new data, is that low vacancy rate and that low turnover rate being a hindrance to, certainly on the rental side, if not the owner side as well. And then again, household income changes, and just, sort of trying to show where we've started to see some of those data collected, but, I think would benefit from a larger approach where we're doing a comprehensive collection. And that could include, if it is of interest, really trying to dig into local data as well. That we collected at the regional level and then had typically broken down for the counties. The housing study also includes some for the 3 largest towns, so Culpeper, Warrenton, and Orange. But if we need to kind of dig further, then that would be something that we could try to anticipate as well. So, yeah. Open to questions, like I said, now, or if there are some between now and for sure.
It seems like refresh of the data makes sense, but it's possible that changing data could challenge conclusions drawn from old data. So I think once you start tearing into it, you better be ready to look at the whole thing. Or it might just confirm, yep, that's what we did before.
Yeah, I appreciate that point, Mr. Curry. I think the thought is that the data is what's most useful, especially to a lot of you locally. On the strategy and sort of action side, I think in just having gone back and looked at the housing study, I think, there's certainly been some progress made, but I also think probably some of the strategies included there are a bit aspirational for this region where it is right now. So it may be something where, again, trying to keep costs down. If we contract out the data, then we take an internal process in terms of the strategies or something along those lines could be a solution. Any other questions, anything I can answer or Jennifer can answer?
Just compliment this little, those who are involved in that data collection. I know there's a lot of deep dive. There's more time spent than what was on the screen. So
Right, and well, thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. All righty, next is the consent agenda. There are 2 items on the consent agenda: the minutes from the October 23rd meeting and year-to-date financials through October 31st. Would anyone like to remove an item from the consent agenda for a separate discussion? And if not, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion approved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Consent agenda is approved. The next item is the executive director's report.
All right, couple of items were listed as sub-items, so I'm gonna hold those until I'm gonna go through a couple of things just for the report to highlight. One in the housing vein, the point in time count for Foothills Housing at Work, for which the commission's lead agency will be January 22nd. We've already engaged, there's been one training held from the state, but we've also engaged with local, for each county, there's a sort of a representative that's leading up the county by county point in time count data collection process. So we're engaged with those members. A lot of them are within your DSS departments or other nonprofits as well. Also, just wanted to highlight, this was in our newsletter that went out last week, I think. But the work on our National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant that we received in 2021 is mostly complete. The last bit of it was at the Carver Center with the installation of some best management practices, including permeable pavers. There was and then also a bioretention or a bioswale adjacent to those pavers. There was a parking lot project that Culpeper County was doing, and so this allowed them to do some of those demonstration projects. It's also going to feed in with education work that's done through 4-H and also with extension at the Carver Center. And so that NIFWF grant funded not only work that we did in terms of some of the planning and watershed planning, but also funded that project, as well as some backyard homeowner like rainscaping type projects with John Marshall Soil and Water Conservation District, as well as a couple of BMPs in the town of Warrenton as well. So really just a really beneficial project that kind of span geographies across the region. And then the two items that I included just as sort of information as well for you. One is the hazard mitigation and resiliency plan. This is the sort of 4-page executive summary, which is a little more digestible than the 400 to 500 page document that the plan itself is. We are in the process, I think either today or tomorrow, this will be submitted, the plan itself will be submitted to VDEM and then to FEMA for their review. I think I mentioned previously, but once that has received conditional approval from FEMA, we will come back to all of your boards and councils to seek your adoption by resolution of the plan, so that you will remain eligible for various funding programs through FEMA. The other piece is that this does fulfill the resiliency planning requirement for the Community Flood Preparedness Fund through DCR. So if you have flood projects that might benefit, this will meet those needs to qualify for that funding source as well. And again, like I said, in 2025, you'll probably see myself or Michelle at a lot of your meetings supporting your local staff that has done a lot of the work for this project. And then the second piece, and this is mostly to make sure that you're all just kind of aware of, again, I know I mentioned this Commission on Electric Utility Regulation maybe at the October meeting, but this was circulated at their November 26th meeting that they had in Richmond. And this was, I think it's about a 6 or 7 page draft. And I want to be very clear, this is a draft policy concept that was presented from their staff to that commission, which they call CURE. I think there are a lot of things that you might want to be aware of locally from a regional commission perspective. The reason I include it here and bring it up and bring it to your attention is because of the idea that is included here as part of the process, which would include, make sure I get the wording right. So would have a requirement for planning district commissions. So our agency shall by July 1, 2026 create regional energy plans, which shall demonstrate a meaningful contribution to state energy goals and forecasted energy growth. And you can read the rest of it there. One of the challenges is that as part of this policy document, some of those forecasted goals and forecasted energy growth wouldn't be available till December 1, 2025. And with an expectation that within 7 months, each region, creates this process plan to meet those goals. So that's a challenge, even in and of itself, in terms of the timeline, beyond the challenge of, the difficulty of, the difficulty of running a process like this. So again, I bring your awareness to this. I will say that myself and other PDC directors have met and talked through and are preparing to share through VA PDC. Some of those concerns. We are grateful that the commission is interested in working through us. We'd much rather from our own perspective, work it through existing regions rather than creating another region that may or may not make sense, but also understand that there are significant challenges, and that goes without saying for any of you locally in terms of the land use authority and things like that as well. So anyways, wanted to make you aware of that and that we are tracking this. Certainly, I'm happy to provide any more information as we get it, as I get it as well.
Patrick, what do you think is the impact of this on local authority with regard to siting?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, what I would say is if you don't listen to Joe Lurch's Vaco podcast, that I would suggest going and downloading the most recent one where he talked with Dean Lynch, really about a lot of this. And just kind of talk through their concerns. I mean, I know Vaco has sort of said we're tracking this and we'll come out against this, as it currently stands. But yeah, I think it is one of those things where as it says, the goals in terms of the energy forecast needs and what the state has sort of said, this is our goal. When you start to say, well, let's divide this up regionally, how do you determine? And there's nothing in this that says, here's how we're going to determine, which I think is also one of the concerns in terms of, any sort of going forward regionally. I don't know if that answered your question, but it's a long way of saying, I think there should be concerns, but I don't know that they're even spelled out at this point.
You mix this around with the JLAR data center study, and a whole lot of does not compute. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the other way, if you haven't seen that, it was released on Monday that Mr. Curry mentions there, the JLAR study on data centers and the energy use and other items as well. Copy of it right here if anybody wants before they do that. And that's it for what I wanted to mention on the director's report.
Okay, those are good highlights. Anyone else have any questions for Patrick before we move on? If not, then we'll go to old business. Are there any updates related to the broadband projects across the region? Anybody that wants to?
I can share that All Points Broadband has been doing what they do best, which is collect more money. They made applications in 6 different areas. They have Culpeper divided into 6 regions. They asked for the new Make Ready initiative money in every one of those areas and have been awarded, although the board's only approved 2 of them so far as contract amendment, but they've been awarded more than they originally got from VATIC, over $9 million.
And there was the provision that you can only get 10% of the original amount.
Correct.
Except there could be exceptions made.
Yeah, and they've gotten every exception in the book, so they, the good news is they're building fiber.
Fine.
The bad news is it's going really slowly. And they are coming to our board meeting January 7th to again give an update and do their dog and pony dance, so we'll be happy to keep you posted, Gary.
Thank you. And our grant has been extended a year, so they don't have to be complete by July 2025.
Or what are they telling you? 2026, July?
Yeah, so that's
That's what they're telling
it was
us.
extended a year by DHCD.
Yeah.
I mean, the money turns into a pumpkin December 2026, so there are certain pressures. Except for the bead money, which they're trying to wash somebody out and some bead in, which is that it can be used later and longer. Although they claim it's just going to be done all at the same time eventually.
You all put some penalties in your contract, I think I understand.
Well, we have an addendum to the original contract that would allow us to kick them to the curb without any loss of money to us.
And benefits for your customers.
But yeah, what are we gonna do? We don't
Yeah.
have an alternative right now.
That's the other JLARC study, the broadband study, which they highly encourage localities if you're going to make amendments to extend dates, put in some hooks. So good for you for being ahead of the curve.
Madison, we're
Yeah.
Yes.
back here, we're rolling along. I can finally say, I think we have over 100 connections to homes so far. So that's a milestone for us because we've been waiting a long time, and it's nice to finally see some work. Our citizens are very attentive. We have probably 3 or 4 that regularly monitor. We have project updates on our website and they go there all the time. So that's good. That means they're. going to our
Your
website.
ISP is partnering really well with the electric utility.
It's
Okay.
nice when it works out.
Across the hall.
I'll tell others that normally this is not wagging the dog or none of that stuff, but I said it's normal, for Madison to kind of be behind our big brothers and sister counties, and it's kind of amazing how this worked out, but yeah, Gary and his team at Firefly or CVEC, I definitely think his rule familiarity, he was a board supervisor before too, so he gets it. I think his passion is what's allowed him to kind of leap out in front of some of these other companies who tend to lobby quite a bit down in Richmond. We were down there last year about, I think it was House Bill 800, All Points has a pretty good delegation that they sent, so. But we're happy to report, we do share frustrations that our local neighboring jurisdictions have, because citizens deserve it, whether it's for banking or education or healthcare. It's all those things that service is needed for, so.
It's been done for long.
I mean, we're still working on our last sort of 10%. That's the hardest to serve, the least dense, but we're still constructing. We just got our Batty 24 contract back from the state fully executed. So I forget how many it is, but so that's good. We'll keep going.
So are you eligible for BEAD fiber link?
Yeah,
Yeah, so that'll help you pick up.
we're looking at BEAD. Comcast is looking to us for local board letters of support for BEAD applications. We're not gonna do that. We're just gonna do it ourselves.
Will you?
They had 20 years.
Will your board write the authority, the broadband authority letter?
Yeah, we'll think about it. I think Spotsylvania lost, we had competed with another firm in Spotsy to serve an area that they got a body grant for, and the company's gone belly up, so they're back asking if we're interested again. Probably.
Well,
Not scurrying quickly to go do that, but.
Okay, everybody's looking back at me, so I assume that means he's finished. Interesting update. The next item, Patrick, do you have any comments about the regional water supply planning?
Yeah, I just added this as an old business item because I think it will just be one that sort of like broadband, brief updates. Only thing I would say is the deadline for localities to submit their primary and alternate contacts to DEQ and also water authorities was December 8th. So we've been in touch with the DEQ. I think we have everybody, I think with the exception of the town of the Plains, but Fauquier County Water and Sanitation Authority covers the Plains, so I don't think there's a lot of concern, but everybody else, good for you for submitting, and we've confirmed with DEQ about that. I would say I think the kickoff meeting will be at some point between now and early April. We have again communicated, we have not formally taken on the role as the PDC to coordinate it. The response from DEQ continues to be that we'll have the guidance document and funding information out at some point in 2025, but frankly, until they do, I don't really feel comfortable taking on that role, and they're still going to have to do that work anyways until that point. And they've also assured us that we can assume that role whenever we want at some point. So that's the status from the PDC level. I don't know if there's been anything else that anybody else has heard or wants to provide.
Any questions for Patrick?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to gauge the room, but the committee would like to see where they feel. I mean, definitely from Madison County's point, should DEQ provide those guidelines, we definitely support you all taking the lead role. So I'm not sure how the other communities feel, but at least if you had a sense of how this group felt, maybe when that decision needs to be made, kind of have the paperwork ready to go.
I'd have to go back and I think in October we sort of came up like that, and that was generally consensus. But I know you weren't here, Mr. Weekly, so that helps to confirm with the other counties as well. And I, again, I sort of look at that as a coordinating and administrating role in terms of making sure people are getting together to talk through this, depending on what has to be done in terms of data collection or procuring a consultant, sort of taking on that role. We've talked also that this is a pretty, dispersed region in terms of where water and sewer infrastructure is. And so especially with water supply, there's going to be a lot of, sort of individualized, pieces that go into the overall plan, for that regional planning unit.
And is the region defined as our planning district? I know that the last time around, there was some movement on the borderlines that Fauquier and Loudoun and Northern Virginia, there was some shifting around as to who got into which plan.
Right. So the way it is laid out in the statute is that the regional planning unit is coincident with our 5 counties. That doesn't preclude a county or a town participating in another region, assuming they would be willing to. And there is a formal process for asking for, formally being designated in a different planning unit than the one you are. But as it stands now, yes, the 5 counties here are all included.
Gordonsville is obviously in the far southwest periphery of this region. And we're close to Charlottesville and close to a lot of other counties there. In fact, our border is Louisa and Albemarle. So we're actually way away. But with being so connected to those folks, I'm not looking to pull this region into that region planning. But I do think, as a matter of code, it almost doesn't make any sense to me to just draw the line around our region, because certainly the periphery is going to be affected probably more by the other regions than this region, and maybe other people as well, because water goes a long way. I mean, it doesn't stop right there, it flows. And so the place for a compound might be in the midpoint. But anyway, I do think they should at least talk. When we're doing our plan and they're doing their plan, once at the later stages, maybe 2/3 of the way through, half the way through, the 2 regions should talk. This is our plan, here's a copy, here's that. And maybe spend a little time, not really partnering or anything, but a little time understanding where the best plans would be 80% what we're doing, but also 5, 10, and 20, recognizing there is a periphery that's impactful, rather than ignoring it, pretending like it's not there. So I do think we at least should be expanding our communicating and look-see and review of the other regions to assess and identify something we might want to, as a region, go in, because that might take care of a quarter of our region if we partnered with, but to me, you've got to identify that there's a big impactful possibility there, not just bring in people just to add more work to do, identifying an impactful possibility. And then we say, yes, let's look into that and let's maybe partner. But that's only after just a review. But to act like they're not there seems silly to me, seems silly. That's really speaking for Gordonsville a lot, but I'm never going to bring this region into, because I can handle it myself. Well, I'm not going to be mayor, but I'll probably still, I'll still be talking whether I'm mayor or not, because Gordonsville needs water whether I'm mayor or not. Who knows what the next mayor will do, but anyway, thank you for that. Anyone else have any questions about that? Okay, the next item is the appointment to the Go Virginia Region 9 Council. If you recall, Commissioner Broadus indicated his willingness to serve in that role, and I would, before I ask for a nomination from the floor for his appointment, which I assume would be easy to get, I just want to say that I'm the one that had that spot, and it was wonderful. And the only advice I would give would be I can tend to be a busy person. I got into it by the end, like a year in. I'd like to have been at that point on day one. I tried. But to really understand everything that's going on and understand the businesses that are coming for grants, to understand everything, you've got to really dive in. The good thing for me was, with being a small business planner, accountant, financial economist, I'm a quick read on all that, but I was doing my quick read all the time when I wanted to do a deep dive rather than a quick read. But it's much more, when you really get into it, it's a lot more meaningful than following the best you can and voting at the meetings. So I would just say that that's something that I would have truly enjoyed doing for a long time. It's kind of would be my bailiwick. especially now that I will have time to do it, but I don't qualify, but I'll have time to do it. Because, it's really fascinating to see the sort of economic projects that come to that board. And it's fun being on the side that gives money rather than begs for money. I've been begging for money for 25 years, so great to give money. But, you'll really enjoy that. I'll ask now for a nomination for the floor for, Commissioner Boss's, nomination.
I'll motion.
Second. And a second, there you go. We have a motion and a second and an agreement to serve. So, all in
Have I
favor?
actually ever said it?
It's not stepping back fast right now.
I have a weak moment, yes.
In a weak moment, but you don't get a second.
No,
moment.
no.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Sounding unanimous to me. I won't ask for the nays. I say it was unanimous.
Thank you for pulling that representation north.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's another good thing. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You'll enjoy it.
Looking forward to it.
Um,
Thank you.
They do a nice mix of, online meetings and so they don't tax you too much in a car, you know.
The food's probably not as good as this.
But you gotta get the group, get the group to come up this way and then it won't be so bad.
That's the goal.
Okay, new business. The first item of new business, is the draft fiscal year 2024 audit. Patrick, do you have any comments before we consider approval?
Just some very brief comments, to do my due diligence, here. So the page 31 and 32 of the audit, have the auditor's report on the internal controls, which I just want to confirm for you. During the audit, there were no deficiencies in internal control identified that would be considered material weaknesses. Those, they cover themselves. There may be instances that exist that were not identified. And during their test of compliance with certain provisions of law, regulations, contracts, and grant agreements, there were disclosed no instances of non-compliance or other matters required to be reported under government auditing standards. The numbers, the current assets, which doesn't include capital assets nor our net pension assets, increased by just under 43,000 from June 30th, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. It previously reported that the cash position had decreased by 14,870. But you'll also note that our accounts receivable was $54,384 higher on June 30, 2024 than June 30, 2023. So that's a long way of saying that on an accrual basis, we netted out positive for the fiscal year. The total net position as of June 30, 2024 increased to $1,023,050, which would increase from $942,902 the previous year. And much of that increase, again, is due to the GASB 68 actuarial adjustment, which was just over $69,000 related to our VRS retirement participation. Capital assets, which is our office space, the computers, technology items, and then, really that main one being this office space. So as of June 30th, 2024, we have a balance of $108,601 on the building, which is at a 4.75% interest rate, and which would be payable through July 2029. So we're getting close to having this building paid off. And then just the statement that overall the commission remains in stable and strong financial position. And I don't anticipate any changes to that outlook, certainly over the next 12 months. But I'm happy to answer questions if there are some, or, probably in more clear if you have these. And we would like adoption today just because we are delinquent based on state code in terms of when this is supposed to be submitted anyways. So the code tells us that we're supposed to have this submitted by, I think it used to be September 30th, which is impossible. But they now got through their deadline, but we do have to submit it to various granting agencies that we want to see this.
Well, I'm most impressed by the fact at the beginning of last year to now, our net position has increased by almost a third. That's a lot, $250,000 up in good standing. And looking at our current assets to current liabilities, just operating, it's just we're in a strong position. And I thank you for that, because you also have needs and wants, and sometimes things take a hit temporarily. And I'm glad to see that we're all on a solid trajectory without a hit. And I appreciate that, Patrick. And it takes good management. And So, thank you, Patrick, overseeing a strong financial condition. And I'd like to move to accept or approve the fiscal year 2024 agency audit. After the motion, and I assume second, we'll take any further questions or comments anyone would like to make. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Now we've got a motion and a second. I don't need to add just for discussion. I don't want to say it that way. Any discussion, any questions? Audit. I also like that it's a clean audit, like Patrick read as far as the management report and everything. It's just that they do a good job here. We've got continuity. We've got same people doing it for a long time. They do it well, have a good relationship with the auditors, and it's just something I've always felt comfortable on the last 20 years, especially more in the last 8 to 10. But always is our financial condition here in this region. So I think some of the other ones, sometimes it's a little more difficult. And so I think we should be proud of our region. Any questions or comments about the audit? Then all in favor of, I don't know whether to say approval or accept. Here it says adopt, which I am kicking out, but they're all A's, but I'll say accept, because that's the way I look at it. Everyone to approve to accept the 24 agency audit, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay,
The only other comment I would make is, to note that this audit was the first time we exceeded the 750,000 in federal funds that raised our costs a little bit. That number has been increased at the federal level to $1 million, so I don't anticipate that we'll reach that threshold. I don't anticipate that we'll see our costs go back down to what they were before, but we'll see how that shakes out next year.
and along with qualifying that way, if you look at old financial statements, you won't see the book that we have now behind the fight. It's a couple of pages of finances. Now it reads like a novel, all it.
And it's mostly related to retirement stuff. So
Right. A lot of reasons for that. Anyway. Thank you.
just want to make sure that.
Yeah, I couldn't reconcile that. I was gonna ask you before I said it. Thank you for doing
Yeah.
that. I looked at it and I said, that doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, the next item is a report from the nominating committee, an election of officers. I'll tell you that the nominating committee met. I could not meet. I'm on that group, but I was not there, but the group got a great slate. The nominations are for Ted Voorhees to fill the vice chair position beginning January 1st. The nomination of Chris Hively to fill treasurer position beginning February 1st. Both these are 25, of course. And the general slate of officers for terms beginning March 1st, 2025. Chair Debbie Donahue. Debbie, congratulations, and you'll enjoy that, and you're an excellent candidate for that, so that's wonderful. Vice Chair Ted Voorhees, Treasurer Chris Hively, at large. The past chair is at large, Fred Catlin, our chair now. Also at large, William Semple, Town of Warrington, at large, Jonathan Weekly, Madison County, and at large, Greg Woods, Town of Orange. That's the slate. So. Is there a motion? I can't remember. Sometimes I do the motions out of order. I'm kind of got, we don't have a motion for this week.
I mean, you want a motion to accept the.
Okay,
Move to approve the slate as presented.
thank you very much. Is there a
Second.
second? We have a motion and a second to approve the slate of nominated officers, which includes everyone coming on March 1st, but also Ted, Chris, which come on earlier. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. We have a new group, wonderful, and a good group, I might say. It's nice that, just a couple of years ago, it seemed like we had nobody that'd been here more than a year or two. And just with a few years go by, all of a sudden, I feel like we've got a seasoned group, and that's great. Okay, there's no closed session for today. And the next item is the regional roundtable. We usually start to my right and Go around the table, yeah.
Few things.
I think we were going around this.
So, we had our Christmas parade last Sunday, that went well, nice weather, that parade collected money for Wreaths Across America, and they'll be doing the remembrance wreaths this coming Saturday, so. Be happy to have anybody come out to the National Cemetery to help with that. Other than that, our Blue Ridge Sidewalk project, that has went well, it's pretty much complete, we're waiting on a guardrail to be put in associated with that, and that project will be completely done. Pedestrian bridge project's going well, as well, and then, I want to thank the county for approving a conditional use permit for our, reuse tank that will provide wastewater effluent as reused water for cooling for data centers. So, try to make a few more bucks off that water before we release it. That's the main things that we have.
So does the data center then have a VEPTIS permit for that water?
Yeah, we'll have to modify our permit. It's I don't know, we're still working on the scope, probably about a $15 million project when we're done. So we're working on an agreement with them to repay us for any costs that we have, so it'll be no costs for us, they'll pay 100% of the costs.
Great idea.
We'll build it and make money off of them when we sell them the effluent, and then when we get a portion of it back, we'll charge them for that.
Rappahannock is quiet this time of year, and I'm thankful for that. We did have our parade Sunday that was well attended, and man, it was beautiful. So I'm thankful I wasn't freezing in a vehicle.
Just mentioned, we continue to fight for really bad school funding rather than the absolute worst school funding. And so, down in Richmond, Monday, watching the General Assembly do absolutely nothing, the joint subcommittee. So frustrating.
There was a good op-ed, Cardinal News.
Yeah. Tried to get some facts into the minds of at least the staffers of the committees who maybe make the decisions. I don't know who makes the decisions down there.
Well, it's been such a long time since they cut us back after the financial crisis that I wonder if anybody's around who remembers what they did. So I think by the end of the month, we should have our RFPs out for our community center gymnasium. I think we're calling it a community center, but it's basically a gym project kind of modeled after Culpepper's field house. So that's should be by the RFP by the end of the month, as well as an RFP for our first county built, purpose-built fire rescue station. So to go in the Unionville area, together with a park, and a relocated convenience site. So those are going forward. We're updating our space needs study. We did one back in 21, that helped us with a number of building modifications that we've now largely completed. And the next phase will then be to sort of convert that into building a new government center in the same vicinity as our public safety building. I think we've finally gotten to the point now where we can't fit in all our buildings anymore. And so the thought is to build a new one.
Who's the number?
Wiley Wilson's doing the space need study. They were the architect on the public safety building. Probably we'll get that, but we'll see. So those are kind of big things. RSA is not a county authority, you know, they're shared Madison Orange separate authority, but we're leaning in heavily with the water plant upgrade project in the Locust Grove area, the one that created all the ruckus a couple months ago. this will be an interesting transition for our board to think about these things as county-wide benefit type projects instead of just all the ratepayers are the only people who will pay for these projects. So they're kind of thinking about that, and in this case, the RSA supplies water to that's our most densely populated area. But then they purchase water to serve the area outside of the town of Orange. Or all of our county government facilities that aren't in the town are served by RSA, including our industrial park, and then they serve the town of Gordonsville. So keeping RSA successful and financially viable is really a county interest. So that's kind of how that conversation's unfolding. And we're looking to partner with Greene County. Now that we've divorced them, maybe it's easier to get along with your ex when you're not sharing the same bank account. I don't know. To short memory. Yeah, maybe do participate in their reservoir project, which should give us a quicker source of raw water storage than if we went it alone. So, and that would actually benefit the town of Orange and the town of Gordonsville in that if we have water to release into the Rappahannock or into the Rapidan, that the town picks it up in the Rapidan too. So it's sort of potentially, not that they need it as much as we would see RSA needing it because they have their own, but it still kind of helps the system.
Just pull out the heavy lobbyist to make sure we up the withdrawal permit.
Yeah.
In Orange, that was lowered, and I'm not really sure why. Anyway, if it's a lot of water there, it doesn't matter if you can't pull it out. So,
Yeah. And the last thing is our board is considering land for economic development because we're almost built out in our industrial park, so. There's hope that we will finally get a data center since apparently everyone has one now. It's actually lost its cachet.
Yeah.
So I mean, sure, you guys make millions, but you know, it's just money.
Thanks, Ted.
So we finally got all of our, what it was, the money allocated now, so we're very good with the, ARPA funds. We got several capital projects going on, they're still on. I would just say that, in the town, our Christmas parade too was Saturday, it was very well received. But, we now have, James Harrison Clough and Delmer Steele on council to replace Mayor Roby and Vice Mayor Sherman. For those. And January will be a new assignment for this committee. To replace Vice Mayor Sherman.
Our most current event is Reese Across America, which is scheduled for Sunday of this week. Bryce Reese will be there in attendance. It's looked to be a pretty big event in that it's the first of many local cemeteries that's having the same event, and they're kicking it off there at Remington Cemetery. I understand that we're expecting upward of 80 to 100 people to attend that. We too had a Christmas parade. It was Friday night. It's estimated that we had 3,000-4,000 people show up for that. I don't know where they parked, but they were there. But it turned out to be very, very good. The development of the program plan for the revitalization program continues to be underway. We're in the third of the 6-month forecast for that to be completed. We had a walkabout with the engineering firm that is doing that program plan that lasted about 2.5 hours. Very informative. And we will get an update from them sometime around the middle of next month. So I'm really excited to see. I'm really more excited about what the phasing is of the JM15 phase of this overall revitalization program, in that it's the longest street that is going to be a part of the extended business district, for the program. And I guess the biggest thing that we got a lot of voice from the citizens on was, there was a media release where there were, I don't know, 4 or 5 interviews that took place in regards to the swim club, which has been closed down since 2017. I think the land transfer has taken place
It was
from the.
approved by the school board. I signed it today.
Oh, great. So that's 5 acres that, the pool was built back in 1969. A very small pool, as you can imagine, the population of the town of Remington was probably around 400, maybe 450. We're up to almost 700 now today. But the community outgrew the pool. It is a very small pool. I think we had like 300 members when it finally closed. So it's a 5-acre parcel of land behind the elementary school, which is a considerable amount of property, given the size of the pool that as we know it today. And I think there's some rough ideas about what.
The demolition of the current structure starts next week, and then hopefully once we get proper money.
That's gonna go a long ways with the citizens. They're gonna be able to see something, having to do with progression of that. So the town and the surrounding citizens is just really excited that you were able to make that happen. But exciting things in Remington.
Yes, that pool, my children swam about 15 years, I'd say, in swim league. And so we were there for over a 15-year period. I was at the end of the pool with my watch time. So I have a lot of memories at that pool from my children, indeed.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd love to have identified some wealthy party that wanted to underwrite upgrading that pool for you. I don't like to see pools go away. But anyway, I'm a little lifeguard that's seen too many people drown, not under my tutelage, but I'm aware around the country and state when I see the news reports. And they always seem to be 6'4", 220 and a college athlete, but they don't know how to swim. And they're in 4 feet of water up to the chest and they're comfortable and they step in a hole. And there she rubbed. So everybody needs to know how to swim.
Yeah, and I hope the pool will serve as a purpose because we have a river access on the Rappahannock there in town. And I think it would be a big benefit for the pool to be able to provide some kind of water safety program from time to time.
Right.
Because the river access is a swimmable access. It's unlike Phelps Management property where they don't allow you to swim, it's strictly hunting and fishing. But there is a very nice sized swim hole there. 45 years ago, that's where my son learned how to swim, was in the river. But yeah, I see the opportunity for that pool to multitask in those like respects.
Glad to hear a pool restored. Before my time, they made the decision to fill our pool in, so I
Right.
can point to it where the dirt is.
Right.
If you come to the town of Madison, but we have a swim team, thank goodness for Woodbury Forest allowing us to. We shivered Friday, probably like your folks did. We had our parade, very nice, parade. I think our participants were up at least maybe 5 to 10% this year, so we're glad to have some. And we have I think it was mentioned earlier, we have the LED lights now, so each person has their own, I guess, desired lights that they use, but they are more energy efficient and the citizens overall appreciate it. Something to calm during tax collection season. Lights up, December 5th, pay your taxes. The Mercy Radio project, I'm happy to announce, is complete. We are live. I believe all of our vehicle installations have taken place. That was probably the most problematic part, is trying to, all right, when can we get these deputy vehicles in and out? Everybody wants them right away, but it takes time to do that. So that project's complete. Not sure the improvement of coverage in your area.
Just before this meeting, I signed a little MOU with,
Yeah.
to try to at least share some
Fantastic.
programming
I think
stuff.
that's gonna touch probably every
Hope
county.
every focus. Yep.
And you may have used it frequencies thank you all for fighting that tragic house fire up in.
No, so we got the house fire, it was actually Madison, right over the line. And we called Madison to ask for help, and they said, no, we got a house fire going.
I heard about that story.
They're
It
like,
turned up.
it's the
both
same
of
house.
us. It's the same house. I called into that. That's funny. So we're glad to see that finally take place. It's much.
Yeah, it'd been better if we could talk to each other.
Yeah.
We can talk to each other, so we'll get those worked out.
Yeah.
But thank you all for your
Yeah.
assistance on that. It sounds like fundraising and donations have helped that family during that tragedy.
Oh, good.
Our EMS renovation, that's nearing, that's supposed to be completed by January 27th, so we can quit paying the landlord the rent space and move over into our space. As you know, renovations sometimes have their own feel. It's not a new building. Everybody wants a new building. But I think it's going to turn out very nice. So we'll have an open house hopefully in April for that. Our park project, we're nearing close for the agreement. We awarded that bid. We had to work out some things with DEQ. I think they have an extortion program when it comes to nutrient credits for storm ponds. But we decided, we have some natural riparian buffer. Lower Dark Run runs through our park. So we're going to go the conservation easement route and say, no, thank you for $87,600 for 4 pounds of phosphorus. We're not, that's just extortion. So we hope to get that project underway soon, and I believe that will be completed probably around the fall of 2025. So other than that, that's keeping us busy as we approach budget season. And I'm glad you all have the audit done in time. I might contact you offline about the auditor that the commission uses.
It feels like for most public bodies, there's only about 3 or 4 in here.
Yeah.
They do it all.
So fall here, we're having some fun. We have a couple of big projects coming along in the town of Warrenton. Our the offices where we are housed is an historic hotel, and we finally decided we've hired a group to put that on the market to turn it back into a boutique hotel. We don't know where we're going to go yet, but we know we're going to be kicked out. We hope if we're
That's great.
successful.
We'll go
We'll
somewhere.
get kicked out, yeah. So we might be knocking on your door for some temporary space. And then we're also beginning to launch an assessment of other real estate assets we have in the town, predominantly forced, because of our various courts. So I think we're going to end up building a judicial center that planning will start in earnest in the next quarter or so. So what's $100 million a month?
Right, so Culpeper and Fauquier get your gigantic number out there, then our big number will
Well,
just be.
just,
Looks so small. Yeah.
Be the normal.
yeah.
Well, we felt the pressure.
Yeah.
With that, the facilities planning for space, we hired Dewberry to come and start that for us. And so they've been, doing all the pictures for that. Also, public safety radio, of course, the system stands, but our handhelds and in-car units, we're hoping to do a final work session in January to see if we can get board support to move away from L3 Harris to Motorola. So lots of projects in the air.
That's expensive stuff.
Yeah,
And all of it
That
is.
is
Yeah.
crazy.
proprietary handheld computers.
Yeah,
That's what
Yeah.
we-
yeah. They're not as smart as these and they cost 10 times as much. Why is that?
Public safety grade, put quotes around that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of the bigger things as noted, we're working on a courthouse study. We have massive space needs and security problems in our existing courthouse. So
No way.
that's soon gonna be a report to the board in the form of some different options, but it's moving along. And we're closing in on a site for our 7th elementary school. Pretty much got that nailed down. And the engineering's underway for that school. And we're about to bid the renovation to Culpeper Middle School, so I'm gonna retire and then David's gonna borrow about $200 million to get all these things done.
Jill mentioned proffers. Do you have much proffer money coming in from rezonings or?
No, it's dropping the bucket.
Yeah.
Nothing significant, but I guess that's pretty much it. And we did not have a Christmas parade, but we did have an annual employee Christmas party. And when I took over as county administrator, we started collecting toys as the admission price for the party. And we had just an unbelievable amount of toys and bikes for an organization called Empowering Culpeper. And they hand them out at the Methodist Church in a couple of weeks, so. Pretty good stuff.
And everybody, my name is David Lee. I'm filling in for my colleague on the Board of Supervisors, Tom Underwood. And we're just gonna miss John next year. And the thing that I've been focusing on most of all in the last few weeks is I'm trying to get John lots of great vacation information. Have y'all ever heard of Shenandoah Tours? They operate out of Stanton. Really nice travel company. So I'm just getting John to focus on taking a cruise or going someplace nice or multiple trips next year. We're gonna miss him. Feel like we have a capable new what's your title, John?
Successor.
Successor, thank you. Administrator. Sorry about that. With Sam McLaren, our current planning director. Excited about that. And sorry to see John go, but he's worked hard. He's ready for some time off, and we think that's terrific. So,
Thank you, Dave.
yes, sir. Sure thing.
Let me know how that goes. I used to go to the beach every year with my family from about 72 to 2012. And then I didn't get another vacation for 12 years. I don't know why that happened, but things got backed up and I'm looking forward to a little time off. I want to say that the town of Gordonsville, for some reason, is throwing a reception for me a week from now, next Thursday, from 4 to 7. And I don't know if there's a problem with the email addresses, the program, or our understanding, but I don't see where invites that I wanted went out. So I can tell all you guys, if you're looking for something to do next Thursday between 4 and 7, stop by and I'll guarantee you it'll be fun because, you know, we'll all be there. And, yeah, town hall, 4 to 7. And, the thing is, I'm not getting a lot of responses as far as but that doesn't, I realize, knowing the people involved, that they're all coming. They're just not responding. So actually, right now, I don't know if it's gonna be 20 people there or 180. Town hall's not that big. So the biggest part of the party might be on the front lawn. I'm really not sure of the numbers, but, they tell me I should write a book, and this isn't because of offices I've held or anything. It's been unique behind the scene that just fall in my lap. Everything from being at the Capitol and things that have happened to me at the Capitol, to talking to Supreme Court justices, to meeting 6 either presidents, presidential candidates, or VPs. It's just been a lot of unusual things that have happened to the little mayor of Gordonsville. I love to talk about it, but in some ways I don't like to talk about it, but maybe I will now that it's all over. But for this body right here, this is, other than the town itself, this has been something very important to me, because when I grew up in Gordonsville and then played sports in high school, Central Virginia was my home, not Gordonsville. I was in Culpeper and Fauquier, and I think my first football game was in Fauquier County that I played. And so anyway, I've always felt like a Central Virginia guy rather than just a Gordonsville guy. So this group really fit my lifetime parameters. And I always knew a lot of people from every town around Central Virginia. So I've loved this group. Briefly about Gordonsville, the pool is on schedule. They're amazing. It's amazing to me. In fact, I get my car and ride down there just to see if they're still doing it. Pouring down rain, now cold and pouring, you know, before now it's been pouring down raining, but not cold during the summer. Those guys don't stop working. If it's pouring from 7 in the morning until 5 at night and it's cold, they're out there in yellow slickers doing it like it's not raining at all. It amazes me. They don't stop working. But they're on schedule. We had a wonderful Christmas tree lighting. I believe it was the largest. 2 things I initiated a long time ago was the annual Veterans Day Parade, which was also big numbers back in November since I've seen you. And then our Christmas tree lighting. The key thing there was having a dance company do with the streets closed off, so we used Main Street for the stage. A lot of grandmothers and mothers there and cousins. And then we have the Gordonsville Elementary School singers, the Bulldogs. And they use the steps of Town Hall and they do a bunch of Christmas specials. Well, I think before we started this back in 08 or something, we would have a group of about 12 people singing Christmas carols and we'd like the Christmas tree. I'd say there were 350 people there. When I was standing at the dais, the street was filled from town hall to their backs were against the wall across the street, and everything I could see was shoulder to shoulder. I don't know what the numbers were, but that's exciting. It's a lot of excitement seeing the small children dancing and all. It brings a lot of joy to the hearts. And so a lot of things I'm proud of is not just $6 million projects. The fact we did it with no taxpayer money was a little exciting. But small things like trying to bring the town closer together, a better feeling of community. Getting a tree in the circle. If you go through Gordonsville, there's a tree in this circle. Almost took an act of Congress because the powers that be, they said it'll affect sight lines. And I said, do you understand what a circle is? It's not an intersection. It actually serves a purpose. When you're approaching a circle without a tree there, you don't see anything to slow you down. You see a straight, you miss that sign, you don't miss that sign. The tree tells everybody to slow down as they approach because you're going straight into a tree. And as they get there, they yield to the person to the left. Without the tree, it's dangerous. The new push throughout the state for traffic circles. I told them I was going to go to the governor's office and sit there every day. And I was going to call Richmond Times-Dispatch and let them come and see me sitting there because they wouldn't approve this tree. I said, what really bothers me is I want the tree, but it shows the VDOT doesn't understand what a circle is, what it does, what it's for. And that bothers me. And so I started talking to people and the General Assembly, and I was already speaking there all the time because I was president of VML and president of the state's regional commissions. So I was lobbying all the time anyway. And every time I'd go, I'd slide in. Do you realize the department doesn't understand anything about traffic circles? So in about, I don't know what year, the General Assembly told them, this wasn't a VDOT thing, the circles. This was General Assembly, political power, telling them when you can utilize traffic circles rather than small intersections where it's going to be T-bone fatal accidents and all the more gasoline burn, whatever the other stuff is. So they sent these two representatives they hired from VDOT around the state, telling people how great traffic circles were. But they came to Gordonsville. We had a hearing and they were speaking, and I said, do you realize 2 years ago, y'all didn't understand anything about traffic circles? When were y'all hired again? They said, oh, we were hired. And I gave them a hard time. But Gordonsville from the 40s until recently was about the only traffic circle in the state of Virginia. And all the new ones being built, we're associated with that as well because of the big mouth mayor. And so anyway, I'll stop there because I could talk for about 5 hours. And this has already been too long, but it's the last time I'm going to do it, so y'all can celebrate that. And this group is important to me. Thank you, Lord John. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Why don't you do that?
We don't want to leave.
I have some great stories I would not get into here. I have some surprises for you. Is that true, Bob? True. But I will make the motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. I'm glad I got to chair this today. Tough for you guys because, you know, a weeping guy looking back is not who you want chairing a meeting, but been made second and all in favor, please say